It happened so fast and out of nowhere. I could have been dead, just like that. This was in North Carolina on a Friday morning, about 11:30, on a day unremarkable in every way. Dr. Fernando, the vet, was cleaning my wife's horse's teeth in the barn. I didn't want to be there, but I was needed to hold the clamp that held the horse's mouth open while he ground their teeth. Not only was the stench of grinding horse teeth unpleasant, but the noise of the tool was so loud it was difficult for me to hear the CD playing on my Walkman. A lecture on Soren Kierkegaard that an acquaintance teaching at Duke had loaned me. Bolero, our stallion, was doped to the gills, could barely keep his head up. While he listlessly stared at the cloud of dust rising from his molars, I tried to grasp the difference between subjective reality and objective reality, and what the philosopher meant when he championed making the leap across the void to become a knight of faith. It was tough sledding. Kierkegaard, known as the father of existentialism, was big on irony, but he wasn't a lot of laughs. Then again, what could you expect from the author of Fear and Trembling? However, the dour Dane delighted in the story about the fellow who confidently swore he would be at a certain place at a certain hour and nothing in the world would stop his arrival. Whereupon, after making this statement, a gust of wind blew a tile off a neighboring house, killing the man. Now, to Kierkegaard, this was a great cosmic joke, a side splitter. Huh? I said, taking off the earphones. Dr. Fernando was trying to tell me Bolero was finished and I needed to get the next patient. Our two mares, mother and daughter, were in the front pasture. I put the halter around Fortunata, the young horse, first. When I opened the gate, Flo, the older mare, rushed to get by. I tried to block her, but I was holding Fortunata with one hand and I didn't have any control as I normally would. So Flo pushed by me and got free. Now, there's a mare out there, I've got a stallion in the barn, and so I needed to get Fortunata in the barn before I could go after her. Now, as soon as I got her out of the gate, she started getting wild. Now, this all happened in seconds. I tried to tighten my grip on the lead rope, but she turned on me, bucked, and kicked at my head. Her hooves missed my face by inches. I didn't see hooves in slow motion like in the movies, but in super fast motion. Barely time for me to react. If she would have gotten me, that would have been it. Lights out, boom, dead. Dr. Fernando saw what had happened and froze. I mean, he was just horrified. Till Sweetie, who was riding in the arena, screamed about the loose horse and get the stallion out of there, and and the other horses are going crazy like they do. And after all the commotion, Flo let herself be captured, and it was all over. Sweetie shrugged it off and advised me not to dwell. She said she had close calls all the time with her horses and that you can't ever let your guard down, as if what had happened was my fault. Well, I'm not as stoical as Sweetie. To me, there's nothing like a brush with death to focus the mind. Such an experience must be meditated upon. It is nothing to be taken lightly, nothing to shrug off. But I started thinking about another close call about 8 years ago. I was driving across Utah in the middle of canyon country. It had been snowing earlier, but the sun was out, and it was just this gorgeous day, and I'm in this vast country, and the road was clear, so I was just speeding along, just spacing out and doing what I was doing in a euphoric mood. And suddenly, I went across a bridge, and I didn't know that bridges were icy. And I hit this, when the road could be clear and the bridges could be icy, and I hit this patch of black ice, and boom, I lost control, going about 65 miles an hour. Spun around once, spun around twice, a third time. I'm going sideways down the thing, 65 miles an hour, and I'm going for a long time just sideways. And then seeing that I'm heading towards the cliff, and then down the cliff, and fortunately, there's still enough snow on the ground so that my wheels locked, and I'm sliding down this hillside, but the weight of gravity and the low center of gravity on my Mercedes, it was one of those tank-like diesels, kept me from rolling. Oh, ended up without a scratch on me, no scratch in the Mercedes, no problems at all, just a punctured tire. AAA, I called AAA, they came out, they winched me out, and when they were done, I just drove off as if nothing had happened. Only problem was every time I turned the wheel, for weeks after it seemed like I was about to go into a spin. And I'd just sit there and it felt like the car was turning on me. And I thought something was wrong with the car, but, it was my imagination. This is like profound. And after a while, the car stopped spinning and all returned to normal. And, I could dismiss these events, and think nothing about them. But I don't dismiss them. I don't want to dismiss them. I embrace them. It's diamond, bright, enlightened moments. I'm on borrowed time. And if I've learned anything, it is never to commit the sin of taking life for granted. Perhaps I'm in debt to some higher power. Perhaps my good fortune has no meaning in the cosmos whatsoever. Either way, it is my conviction that I must do some good and serve some purpose. In the spirit of Kierkegaard, I must make the leap. I must cross the void. I must make my every action a reflection of my beliefs. Life can end abruptly and by something as unexpected as a kick by a horse or black ice. A few months ago, I had the most ridiculous near-death experience yet. In Patricia Schultz's book, 1,000 Places to See Before You Die, on page 546, she writes about the Yasawa Islands in Fiji. Yasawa is where Brooke Shields went and they filmed the Blue Lagoon, and it looks just like in the movie. It's one of the most unspoiled spots in the South Pacific. Now, after a 12-hour flight from LA and a 35-minute flight from Nandi, Sweetie and I arrived and were taken to our bungalow. We were told there were a dozen other people at the resort, but we saw nobody. We had the place to ourselves. We're spaced out and it's jet-lagged and we're upside down. But we put on our swimsuits and stepped out onto the beach. And we were in, paradise. The sand was sugar white. The water was bathtub warm, crystalline. I rode some waves, and life couldn't have been more perfect till I realized the current was taking me out. I'd been in paradise less than half an hour on my dream vacation, and my life was in peril. I'm struggling to get in, but I don't have fins on, and I'm in serious trouble. There was no lifeguard, and I'm caught in a riptide. I'm trying not to panic, but I'm feeling like an idiot, and I swim harder, but I'm making scant progress, and I'm getting tired, and I just, I couldn't submerge the thought that I was going to drown. And I hadn't even unpacked. Finally, almost at the point of exhaustion, a big swell gave me enough of a push to get past the breakers. And I was able to make my way to shore. Now, Sweetie, all this time that I'm doing this, Sweetie she was in the surf, and she was on the other side of the breakers, and she was fine, and she got off, and she'd seen me out there floundering, but thought nothing of it. And I told her what had happened, and she was pretty unimpressed as usual. Dry off. We're late for breakfast, she said. So the story doesn't end there. That afternoon, while I was admiring the hibiscus and thinking Yasawa was heaven, right on cue, a coconut dropped from a high palm and smashed on the ground about 2 feet from where I was standing. Well, I was closer to heaven than I realized. I looked over at the infinity pool, blue, where the water tipped over the edge, the sun making diamond patches, and beyond that, the sea sparkled with purple-green iridescence. And I just stared. And I'm laughing. And Sweetie comes up and she says, what's so funny? I said, Kierkegaard, he cracks me up. Sweetie used to me, didn't ask. We strolled hand in hand to the dive shop to get some fins before they closed for the day.